Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Empire City Garrison's Virtual Troops Helmets Off. I'm Jonathan Diaz, TK-16890, Executive Officer of the Empire City Garrison, and today's guest is Chris Feehan, the Commanding Officer of the Empire City Garrison. How's it going, Chris?
That's going very well, John. How you doing?
Okay. Hanging in there. How's everything in these crazy times for you?
Well, it's been difficult. You know, the job's been crazy. I work at a nonprofit, the Cerebral Palsy Association. We've been trying to keep things together. We've been trying to deal with this difficult situation. And I think all our members and their families are going through a really rough time right now.
I know it's hard, and a lot of people that work in retail and stuff like that, like myself, are home very bored and hoping for the best so we can all get back to work soon. So, Chris, we are part of a group called the 501st Legion. We're part of the Empire City Garrison for New York. Tell us a little bit about the 501st and what we're all about for the people who don't know.
Well, sure. The 501st Legion's an international group of over 20,000 men and women who dress up in Star Wars movie accurate costumes, most of which they build themselves. And we strive for 100% accuracy, as close to it as we can possibly get, so that the costumes are movie accurate. But instead of just using the club as a forum to build the costumes and make them accurate, we also channel those costumes and use them for good in the community. We do hospital visits, library visits, charity walks, and fundraisers to help raise money for those nonprofits and charities and worthy organizations in the community. So it kind of gives us a purpose beyond just building the costumes, so that we can use them for good in the community.
Now, I'm sure you've got asked this question 1,000 times, but what was your first experience with Star Wars? How did you get into Star Wars?
Well, I've been into Star Wars since I was 6 or 7 years old. I was around that age when the original Star Wars came out. And as with most people and most kids at that time, it blew my mind. I mean, after I saw the movie, everything in my life from that point forward pretty much revolved around Star Wars. What figures I was going to get for Christmas, what my Halloween costume was going to be, what comic books I was reading. Everything was Star Wars. And it wasn't until, my adulthood, years later, that was kind of rekindled when I discovered the 501st Legion. I would go to a lot of conventions, creation conventions in the city, the Icon Convention on the island, and just other various comic book shows. And I started seeing these guys in these stormtrooper outfits and other Star Wars outfits at some of these conventions. And at one point, I was at a convention actually dressed as a colonial warrior from Battlestar Galactica, because I was at that time in like 99, 2000, I was involved with the Battlestar Galactica fan club. I was actually the president of that for some time. I was really intrigued when I saw the Star Wars characters. I'm like, wow, I've never seen anything like that in, face to face in real life, seeing a pretty accurate stormtrooper. I actually followed one of those guys back into their changing room and said, listen, I'm sorry, I don't mean to come back here. I know I'm not supposed to be back here. I just want to find out, where do you guys get the costumes and what are you doing? What is this all about? And I actually was speaking to Ruby Renesco, who's been a longtime member and an old friend of mine now. And he, kind of started showing me his armor. He was showing me some of the parts of it. And he was explaining to me, how they put it together and how I could get in touch with somebody who was making some of the parts for it, that I could get it together. And I kept in touch with him, and I kept in touch with some of the other folks I met that day at the convention. And I was all jazzed. I was all ready to go. So back in like 2002 or 2003, I probably would have joined the 501st at that point. But I had twin girls at home who were born in 2000, and they were a handful. And until they were about 6 or 7, I really wasn't able to get involved with the club. But around 2007, I really got involved. I started looking into getting the costume seriously. I started looking into places I could purchase the parts from some of the contacts I'd gotten through the 501st members who I'd met at that convention. And I was able to find, at the time, an outfit that was called an FX kit. And I was able to build it. Took me almost a year, between work and home life and everything, to source the other parts you need, the undersuit, the gloves, the boots, all the different parts. It took over a year for me at that time to find it, to find all the pieces and put it all together. And I finally got it together in April of 2008, reached out to the 501st, sent in my pictures for approval and everything. I was waiting for my approval, but there was an Icon convention coming up in Stony Brook, Long Island. And I was so set on that was going to be my first troop. I said to my wife and my twins, they came with me to the convention. They wanted to go there for some of the Harry Potter stuff they had at this Icon convention. So I said, you guys go do the Harry Potter stuff. I'm going to get suited up and I'm going to go meet up with the 501st guys. So I got all suited up in the parking lot, went over to the table the Empire City Garrison had at the Icon convention. And I met some of the guys there, including Steve Orliano and I think it was Bob DeSimone and a few other guys who were still in the group to this day, and said, you know, guys, I'm sorry. I know I might have jumped the gun here a little bit, but I was waiting for approval and I got it on now. And I just thought maybe you could give me a once over. And they had their GML look me over and he says, you know what, you're good. Don't worry about it. This will be your first troop. And I got to tell you, it was up to that point in my life, it was the thrill of a lifetime to actually be accepted into the group, to actually get to do what I had, you know, wanted to do for almost 6 or 7 years after finding out about that group. Being able to be part of that group and be accepted by them was just an unbelievable experience and very gratifying.
Yeah, I have a similar story with that. So again, I'm a lot younger, but my grandma always had the Star Wars movies on VHS, and she showed them to me very young. And for the movie theater for me was when they redid the original trilogy, and then of course when they did the prequel trilogy. So for me, that was my Star Wars movie experience, but I was in love with it. I remember I really got into the toy collecting when the Revenge of the Sith figures came out with the Darth Vader packaging. I mean, I still have all of them till this day. I was collecting figures like crazy, so I just really, really got into Star Wars. And one Comic-Con, I remember, just like you, seeing these guys in Stormtrooper costumes, being amazed, like, how do these people have these movie-accurate costumes? Where did they get them? So I was too young at the time. I think I was like 16. So I remember just following these guys. I remember when they did the Rose Bowl parade and I saw that stuff. And I would just follow them around every time I could, or at every convention, or whenever they did a event in the city. Until I worked for a company called Kid Robot, this toy company, and we did an event for this Star Wars-like toy that was coming out. So my boss was like, how can we get more people to come to the event? And I was like, hey, there's these guys, the 501st, and I'm sure if we donate toys and stuff to charity for them, they'll be more than happy to come for the event. So sure enough, we got people to come, and I did the same thing. When they were changing and getting dressed, I just sat right next to them, didn't care, talking their ears off, and it was Dan King, who's still in the Garrison till to this day. And I'm sure I annoyed that man to no end and messaged him nonstop until he pawned me off to the GMLs, and I met John Hopper. And then John Hopper put me in the right direction, another longtime member. And I got my first kit. I got the AP kit, right?
Yeah, that's actually a much more accurate kit.
Yeah, I really did my research, and you know, I was young at the time, so that was a lot of money for me. So I really took my time and researched and picked out a really good suit. And unlike some people like yourself, who is really handy and can put your costumes together yourself, I lived in an apartment, didn't have the space nor the talent to put one together. So John Hopper was very nice in helping me put my costume together and got me approved. And my first troop was the Intrepid Air and Space Museum, which was an awesome first troop and an awesome first experience.
Yeah, that was always a huge event with, you know, at least 50 to 60 members from not just our garrison, but other garrisons in the surrounding areas.
Yeah, we took this photo that day, and they let us go into one of the planes. So it looked like we were all sitting inside a plane, which is very cool for one of my first photos. So what I just brought up, like myself, for people who are not very handy, how would somebody go about finding a costume if they wanted to join, or if they're not handy, how could they get help to put together a costume?
Well, as I said, the group is split like between two major areas. One is the costume building, the costume procurement, costume accuracy, and the other parts of the charity. The part that's, really great for new members is all the support you get from the members of the group to help you build your costume, to help you work towards that costume. The hardest part is always getting over that first hump and getting that first costume so that you have full access to all the forums and all the information that we have available and everything of that nature. However, if you're looking to do a specific costume, there are detachments within the 501st Legion. The 501st Legion is set up as an international organization with various garrisons that are separated geographically. Separate from the geography, there are also detachments within the 501st Legion that are groups of individuals who are skilled in a particular type of costume. There's like a clone trooper detachment just for anything clone related. There's the 1st Imperial Stormtrooper detachment. That's the FISD, which is the one that's just for the Stormtroopers. There's one called the Sith Lord detachment. That's for Darth Vader and the Emperor and any other Sith Lords that fall under that category. So you can go to the 501st Legion, look at what kind of costume you want to do. There's something in the on the website for the 501st Legion itself called the Costume Reference Library. You can scroll through there. There's a PDF of hundreds and hundreds of different costumes to choose from that are acceptable within the 501st that can be approved. You look to whatever costume you're looking to do. Say it's a Stormtrooper. So you go and find the Stormtrooper you're looking to do, whether it be from the first movie, A New Hope, or whether it be one from Empire Strikes Back. And believe me, once you get in the 501st, you begin to realize there's dramatic differences between the ones between all the movies, even between the 3 original movies and Rogue One and Solo. There's differences between those Stormtroopers that are very significant. You would focus in on the 1st Imperial Stormtrooper Detachment, FISD. You'd go to the 1st Imperial Stormtrooper Detachment. There's a link when you look at the different detachments to go directly to their site, which is firstarmor.net. And you can just introduce yourself. Say, hey, look, I'm a person looking to do a Stormtrooper costume. You look through the forums to see where they have some recommendations for different armor makers, different suppliers. What I have to tell you right off the bat, that are just good general rules for any Star Wars costume that you're looking to do that would be 501st approvable. Avoid things like eBay, avoid things like Etsy, unless it's a maker or somebody that's recommended from one of the detachments for that specific type of costume. These guys and these men and women on these sites really police this and really try to point you in the direction of people that are known good suppliers and known good creators of these materials, that they're movie accurate, that they'll meet the specifications. The last thing you want to do is go to eBay. You might be very tempted. You'll look at one on eBay that looks incredible, that's $600. Oh my goodness, look at this picture, it looks incredible. I can guarantee you the picture is not the actual armor that you're buying. And you get the armor and then you have no idea how to put it together. You have no idea what you're doing. And you figure it out, you get it all put together, and then the garrison that you're applying to, the 501st Legion, their garrison member liaison will tell you it's completely unacceptable. The shoulder bells are wrong, the chest is wrong, something's wrong with it that's unfixable. So you're stuck with a $600 hunk of plastic that's completely unapprovable. So please, the most important thing you can do, find your detachment for the costume that you're looking to go for, do the research on that detachment, ask questions of people on that detachment. The folks are really helpful and they'll really point you in the right direction. And just be prepared to do that research ahead of time so that you can be successful in your quest to get whatever costume you're trying to get and build it to the specifications that will make it 501st approvable, because the requirements are quite high. And you can refer to that costume reference library. It has just about down to every little detail what exactly you need. And you can use that as a guide to kind of help you find the parts that you're looking to get and the parts you're looking to acquire to make that costume exactly what you need to do, what you need to get to, which is a 501st approvable level. So please, again, do your research and don't be afraid to ask questions and ask the men and women of these detachments questions, because they'll be more than happy to help. Now, once you get into a particular garrison, get an approved costume and you have full access, you can also ask your garrison mates, you can ask other people in the detachments, you get more access to some of our internal forums and the forums on the 501st. So it gives you even more access to some more resources that you can tap. So it just gets better from there. And I can tell you, being somebody who's now had about 9 or 10 approvals within the 501st, it does become a little bit of an addiction. Once you get that one costume, you go to a troop and you see other people with a cool costume, you're like, wow, I'd really like to do a TIE fighter. Where can I get that? And you start talking about it. And then little by little, you might acquire more costumes. I've acquired about 9 over the course of my 12 years in the Garrison. And I always have my eye out for other ones that I'm trying to focus on and trying to shoot for.
Oh, yep, yep. I remember when I started and I got my Stormtrooper costume and I said, this is all I'm going to need. I'm not going to need no more costumes. And sure enough, I'm like, I want to do a TIE pilot. Or, man, if I do a TIE pilot, I can make like 4 other costumes out of that costume. So I might as well just get all the pieces for that. And yeah, it's a very, very good but bad habit.
And I want to mention one other thing that does actually happen. There is wear and tear on costumes. As I mentioned, I've been in the group for over 12 years. My original Stormtrooper is now on a mannequin and is pretty much, unusable, not only because it was an early model and the standards have changed over the years to become even more accurate, but I actually, you wear it out. You actually use it so much, it gets beat up. And there's a point where you say, okay, I got to replace this or replace this part or upgrade it. And you start looking at the detachment forums and you start looking into who's a better maker, a more accurate maker. I think me and you both, John, had the RS props armor from England at one point. That's the super, super uber accurate and very expensive armor that you can get from the UK. Mm-hmm. And, you might shoot for something like that. It might be a lot more pricey, but you feel really good when you know that you're, uber accurate, that it was, they sell stuff that's cast from original. So it's something that was cast from an original piece that was actually used in the movie. So it's as close to the original as possible. And again, I don't want to hawk or, really try to sell you on a particular maker. Do your research and find out, what best works for your price range and what works, for your skill level. I mean, if you want to get one completely made, you can look at an RS props, or there's other people within the garrisons that sometimes will build them for a service charge for you at a reasonable price and say, listen, send me your armor. I'll put it together for you. Just give me your measurements and, I'll charge such and such to do that. So there are people who offer their services within the group as well. And sometimes we have things like armor parties where people would just get together and come over to somebody else's house and just say, hey, let me help you put that together. So it's about troopers helping troopers. It's about people helping other people achieve that accuracy level that they're looking for. And we all work to and strive to help each other get to that level.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I do love about being in the 501st. It's almost like being in it's almost like being in the army in the way of it's a brotherhood, and everyone's friends. And if you've been in the 501st long enough, you have friends from all over the world. We know people from Mexico, Japan. You really make friends everywhere. Wherever you go, you can have a place to go or someone to see.
Yes, and especially within your own garrison, because you're all like-minded people. All of which have very good hearts because they're willing to donate their time and energies to good causes within the community. And you all share that love of Star Wars. But we have people from all walks of life, from police officers, doctors, FBI agents, people who work in retail, people who work, in sanitation, people who work in just about every walk of life you can possibly imagine in this organization. Yet we go to a troop and we all have that common, interest in Star Wars costuming and Star Wars in general, that we can spark up a conversation and be talking about stuff like that, talk about what's going on within the garrison, talking about upcoming events. There's always something to talk about, and there's always something to be excited about and be able to talk back and forth about. So you make very fast friends in this organization, and it is, like you said, like a brotherhood or a level of camaraderie that you do see in other organizations like the military or other fraternal type organizations.
So one of the next questions I would like to ask is, so we do, like you said, we do a lot of charity events and stuff like that. What have been some of the most rewarding events that you've done?
I always say, I have to say, and I will always say the hospital visits that we do. We do hospital visits on a regular basis. We have a partnership with Stony Brook University, and it used to be more just whenever they would call us, we would come, and we would also inquire with them on if they had any special children there that wanted to have Star Wars characters come. We now have more of a regular schedule. That's been suspended, of course, because of this whole COVID-19 situation. But in general, we did set up a schedule that we usually go to Stony Brook Hospital 4 times a year. We have a quarterly visit. We have to keep it to only 5 or 6 troopers, and there is there is a real interest in doing that. So we try to rotate that as much as possible so that everybody gets a chance to do it. We also work with Cohen's Medical Center, and I think in the city we've worked with a few in Manhattan as well.
Yeah, we've worked with a couple.
I think it was Mount Sinai and also Maria Ferrari
Mm-hmm.
up in Westchester. Those visits I can't even describe to you. You're not visiting. Some of our events are huge events where we visit thousands of people. We do conventions with thousands of people, like Comic-Con. We do libraries with maybe 50 to 100 people. You do a hospital visit, you may be visiting maybe 15 kids at most, maybe 20. And maybe 5 to 10 of those kids are really Star Wars fanatics who are really excited to see you there. It doesn't make any difference. If you even see one kid at a hospital that you're brightening their day by being a Star Wars character for them in that moment, you can see it in their eyes. You can live vicariously through their eyes and see their excitement. To have a kid who's going through any kind of situation that has to land them in the hospital and have them get excited about seeing you, it's an unbelievably moving experience. Just thinking about it, I'm getting a little teary-eyed because I can't even, it's almost indescribable. And I try to explain it to people, and it's so indescribable. It's something I can't even put into words. You can see through their eyes that wonder, that excitement, and to see it from a kid in that kind of situation is just priceless and indescribable. It's an amazing experience. So we strive to make that kind of the core of what we do. That's something we always try to come back to. That's something we really push for and try to give people the opportunities to do that whenever we can. And I'm proud to say that I've done probably 50 or 60 over the course of my career, and they always, every single one of them sticks in my mind as a very moving and touching experience.
Yeah, I have to say the same thing. I remember my first hospital visit, and I think it was John Hopper who told me, this is going to be a totally different experience, and it's totally going to change how you see this whole thing of trooping. And it really did. It was a really eye-opening experience, and it's good that we wear helmets, because to see these kids get so happy over that, are some of them are sadly very sick and might not make it through, get so happy to see us is a very, very very humbling thing.
Yeah, yes, I have to say, and especially being a father myself, I think of how lucky I am that my kids are healthy, never really had to have anything that would land them in the hospital. To be so fortunate not to have that situation, you can't help but want to give back and do something. If you have the power to do it, I hate to quote, silly comic books for something so serious, but with great power comes great responsibility. If you have the power to brighten a kid's day by just showing up somewhere in your Star Wars costume that you worked very hard to build, I almost feel like I have a responsibility to do that. I feel like almost obligated, like, yes, this shouldn't sit in my attic. This shouldn't be unseen. I should use this for something for good. I should actually use this and do something for good in the community. And I think whenever we do something like that, it is the most selfless and most rewarding kind of things that we do. I'd like to tell you one other quick side story, and I hope I don't get too upset over it, but it was something that really did touch me. As a rule, just so you're aware, and for anybody who's looking to ask us to do events, we rarely do weddings or birthdays unless there's really extenuating circumstances. I had a particularly bad experience at a wedding one time when I went there, and the bride and groom were really excited to have us, but everybody else in the wedding party had no idea why I was there, and it was a very uncomfortable experience. And we had done it for a donation, and I really was happy to do it for the couple, but it really wasn't something that I would recommend for a lot of members. Now, again, we do sometimes entertain them if it's a very extenuating circumstances. And for birthdays, it's the same way. We have made certain exceptions for kids in need, kids with special needs, kids that really deserve it and really would appreciate having a stormtrooper or a couple of characters come to their birthday party. About it was about 4 years ago. We went to this little kid's Zach's party. He was about, I think, 12 years old at the time, and he had his birthday party at a local bowling alley. And it was just him and a couple of his friends and his parents and their families. And they invited us to come, and we said, absolutely, we'll be there. And we were there for Zach's party. It was a great experience, very memorable. Zach was incredibly appreciative. He was very excited to have us there. And he had a friend there who was another kid with some disabilities who I think was also going through some cancer treatments at the time. And it was very moving and touching to us that they were both so excited and both so happy to see us. And it was something that we just couldn't say no to. Well, I'd done that, and we've done, many other troops after that. Just last year, we went to the Night to Shine prom. And that's a prom where they have some kids with disabilities get to have a night out where they get to have a prom, and they get all dressed up, and they get to walk a red carpet, and they get their pictures taken. They have a big meal. They have a DJ. It's an incredible experience. We've done it the past 2 years, and hopefully we'll keep supporting that in the future. But one of the parents came up to me and said, by any chance, do you know Chris Feehan? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, were you the characters who came to my son Zach's party? It was so amazing what a small world it is that it was the same mother from that party. And Zach was actually at this party. That it just touched me that, she remembered us, and she said to me that Zach still talks about you guys. He still has your little trading cards. He still every day says, wasn't that a great party, Mom? And for him to have remembered that, 3 or 4 years prior, and then for the mom to kind of come up to us and tell us that was just so fulfilling and rewarding and reaffirming that what we're doing does make a difference, that this child still remembered it years later. And it really touched me deeply. It really was a very emotional experience, and just made that experience at the Night to Shine prom even more memorable because of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, man, it's crazy how you can leave a impression on a child that lasts so long, and even when they have such crazy other circumstances going on in their lives with illness or other things, that they'll keep that one little memory and hold on to it.
Absolutely.
So on the opposite side of the spectrum, we also do get to do some pretty amazing fun things that being in this club, we get these crazy things that we would have never thought we'd be able to do in our whole lifetime. So what are some of the craziest things you've gotten to do because of the 501st?
Well, that's a whole other area that's just unbelievable. I mean, we do get to do some incredible troops for different charities. Like we get to do things for nonprofits like the Intrepid, where we got to, see the Enterprise and got to take pictures with it, and got to do a couple of kids' days at the Intrepid. That was just, an incredible museum to visit and an incredible experience to get to be there and participate in an event there. We do the Cradle of Aviation out here on the island, which is another aviation museum, very often. I'd say we do that 3 or 4 times a year and do various events for different charitable organizations there. And we get asked to do just crazy stuff that Disney Lucasfilm asked us to do that I never would have imagined in a million years that I would actually get to do just by putting together some plastic costume and joining the 501st Legion. I mean, everything from being on the Today Show, Good Morning America, doing a commercial for Spike TV that was like a holiday-themed commercial, and dancing around and to some ridiculous Star Wars song that was a holiday theme song.
Which is crazy because people post that still every year.
I know. And what's funny about that commercial is people still to this day, every Christmas, one of my friends on my friends list will post it to my Facebook and say, "Oh, Chris, I think you'd find this funny and you'd get a kick out of this." And it's the most satisfying thing to say, "Yeah, I'm in it. I'm the one with the earmuffs." It happens to me every year without fail. As a matter of fact, I mentioned to you before, I was the president of the Battlestar Galactica fan club. I actually had a friendship with Richard Hatch, who played Apollo on the show, and had a lot of contact with him when I ran the fan club. He actually reached out to me before his death, unfortunately, last year. He reached out to me a few Christmases ago and sent it to me. And I'm like, Richard, you're not going to believe it. That's me. I'm one of the stormtroopers. And he was like, I don't believe it. Of course I should. He's like, of course I should have known it was you with your whole stormtrooper thing. But that was incredibly satisfying. But we've done like Ink Masters. What's that show? The Home Makeover show.
Yeah.
That we did it for a family that had lost their home in a fire, and they were getting a trip to Disney World, and they brought us in to do that. But it runs the gamut from different television appearances, promotional appearances, and it's nice to be recognized by Lucasfilm and Disney for our accuracy, that they understand, that they know that if they request us, that we're going to know how to stand there and act appropriately, that we're going to obey their rules, and that we're going to show up in a movie accurate costume. They really have no qualms and no worries about partnering with us and working with us whenever they need us for those types of experiences. So it's great that they afford us those opportunities and open that up to the members of the group. I have to say it is mostly Darth Vader and Stormtroopers, and probably overwhelmingly Stormtroopers specifically, because they have very tight regulations about different characters. So I always recommend, if you're looking to get into the group, one of the entry level costumes is a Stormtrooper. That should always be a good costume to try to focus on. And it's a great go-to costume because you get a lot of opportunities to do some of these promotional events and promotional appearances through the Stormtrooper costume.
Yes, you do get some very cool experiences when you get a Stormtrooper.
Well, I have to tell you, I thought I had seen everything from being on those different shows and having those opportunities, being on different public appearances. At one point, I did an appearance at a store called Rag and Bone, and I got to spend the entire evening with Mark Hamill. So you never know who you're going to see or who you're going to meet at one of these crazy events that you get to do.
I think that we've met pretty much the whole original cast and most of the new cast at this point, with all these experiences.
Well, you were part of that story as well, John, because you were there with me during that time when The Force Awakens came out. We were asked to do multiple days at Good Morning America, and it turned out that the entire cast of Star Wars was there that entire week. So we got to meet Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford and John Boyega and Daisy Ridley. Every single main cast member was there. And it was just the most unforgettable experience. Now, you'd think that after all that would be the ultimate experience I've had there. But as you know, John, just this past December, I got the most crazy request I think I'd ever heard of, to the point where I had to look it up and double check with Lucasfilm and some of our contacts within the 501st to make sure it was even legitimate.
Oh yeah, same here. I think everyone was doing that when they saw that request.
I know. Just let me explain to you what the request was, and you and the audience can determine, just how crazy they would have thought it sounded. Basically, we got this cryptic email from the 501st saying that the Royal Film Commission in Jordan wanted us to come to Amman, Jordan, for the premiere of Star Wars, the Rise of Skywalker, in our outfits to be part of the premiere. And it was going to be an all expense paid trip. They were going to take us to the sets of the movie, and they were going to put us up, room and board, everything. It was all going to be paid for. You could imagine everybody looked at this email and went, is this junk mail? Is this some guy in Nigeria trying to get our credit card numbers? Nobody believed, at first blush, that it was actually for real. I checked with the 501st. They said, no, it's for real. And yes, we've checked on it. And yes, they really want to do this. So I put in for it. And my wife and kids were ready to kill me. They're like, you're not actually going to go to this if they pick you. And I'm like, it's a chance of a lifetime. It's going to where they filmed a large chunk of the movie, going to the premiere to a foreign country and having it all paid for. I said, you got to be kidding. I wouldn't miss this. There was a little tension with my family over this, but they said, okay, well, if you get picked, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Of course, I did get picked, and four other individuals from our garrison got picked, and 5 individuals from the Florida garrison got picked. And it was for real. And they only picked us and let us know 3 days before we were supposed to leave, the week before Christmas. So
That's pretty crazy times.
my wife was absolutely thrilled about this. And at the time there was some unrest going on over there, and it was just crazy. I have to say, I took a chance. I said, screw it. I'm going to go. I'm going to do it. I got to tell you, it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I mean, it was a totally different culture, a totally different world there. They treated us incredibly well. They did have us go to the premiere. We got to see the movie a few days before it opened at the premiere in Jordan. We got to meet the King of Jordan's son and all the dignitaries from Jordan. We got to do a hospital visit at the King Jordanian Hospital, which was an unbelievable experience. And they went completely bonkers over us being there. They took us to a mall in Jordan where they had us go around. So the first day we were there, they gave us kind of the rundown of what we're going to be doing. The second day, we had 3 troops in a row for 12 hours.
Wow.
We did the hospital visit, a mall visit, did the premiere, and then got to see the movie. And then the next morning, at like 5 o'clock in the morning, they got us up and had us drive out for 4 hours to the middle of the Wadi Rum Desert to tour the 6 or 7 main filming locations of The Rise of Skywalker, where they filmed all the scenes that were in the desert. And it was just incredible. They had us at one point, we're on the top of one of the mountains, get suited up on our outfits, and we got some amazing shots, some publicity shots of us in the middle of the desert in the same filming location where they filmed the movie, in our outfits. And then they had us suit down and they took us to some of the other locations. They had us go to the location where they filmed the quicksand scene in Rise of Skywalker, and we actually were able to take back some pellets and some sand from the area. I got to tell you, the friendships I made there with some of the other folks from our own garrison that I had just met. One of them, Eric Spader, who was one of our newer members, who was from upstate New York, and Anthony Garzone, who's another member, also from the upper state area, who I don't get to see much because he's from that other area. Just getting to hang out with those guys, and Joe Montello from our group, and Ted Moy from the New York City area. These are three of the guys, Ted Moy, Anthony, and Eric. I didn't really get to see much because, Ted does a lot of stuff in the city, and Anthony and Eric, being new and being from upstate, I don't get to see them much. We really bonded and got to know each other during those 3 or 4 days. And Joe Montello, who was Darth Vader there, who was also from our group, who lives on the island, was already a very close friend of mine. So it was just great connecting with the other 4 members of our garrison, and making fast friends with the other members from the Florida garrison. It was just an experience of a lifetime, and I would never go back and change, signing up for it and taking the chance on it, that it would be a positive experience, because it was just an incredibly surreal and rewarding experience.
Oh, man.
It was just so much in those 2 days. It was like a blur, and when it was over, we were even looking at each other in the airport, looking back at each other going, did that even really happen? It was just one of these surreal things that you never would think in a million years that something like that would happen to you, just from, volunteering your time and building a costume for Star Wars.
Yep, sometimes it pays off to have a pretty extreme fandom.
I know, and to this day, my wife is still not completely forgiven me for it, but she was happy that I came.
Listen, I'm sad that I didn't go. So you made.
I know, and I felt terrible for the other folks. Originally, there was a lot more people picked, and then they cut it down until it was only 10, and it was just heart-wrenching that some of the folks who were had been told they might be able to go ended up getting it reneged on them. It was just terrible. But they had a limited budget. They had to stick to the budget, and they were trying to work out all logistics in a very, very tight time frame. So I understood the challenges that they had putting it all together in such a tight time frame. It was less than a week they had to put it all together, and only 3 days before we actually had to fly that they had to make the final determinations on the people that were going.
That's crazy. Yeah, man. Again, very sad because of my job I couldn't go, but at least I get to hear the stories from you guys, and you were very nice enough to give me some of the sand with the quicksand.
Well,
Thank
you've
you
got
for
to
that.
now tell your superhero story about getting to wear the Sith armor.
Oh yes, yes, yes. So again, like Chris said, we've gotten to do some pretty crazy things. Again, it was another vague. Uh, it was another vague email we got from the heads up, and they said, "Hey, we need somebody to wear this costume uh, for what was it, The View?"
Yeah.
And we were like, "Okay," but they needed a certain size. So honestly, it was a small size. So it always winds up to be me or Chris for that because we are very skinny guys. So I got picked and had no clue what I was wearing until I got there. And when I got there, it was the Sith Trooper armor from the Rise of Skywalker. Not only was it the armor, but it was one of the screen used armors in the movie that I got to wear, and that was such an amazing experience. And to put on one of the to put on one of the costumes from the movie is crazy. And I guess it turned out well because was what was it, like a month later?
A month
We had,
later, we both got asked to do the ESPN commercial.
yeah, we got asked to do an ESPN commercial in Connecticut, and they messaged me, "Hey, would you like to come do the Sith Trooper again?" And you don't have to ask me that, of course. Yeah, of course I'm going to
You
do
don't
it.
have to ask me twice.
So I was lucky enough to be able to do it again, and yeah, it was a crazy
Yeah,
experience.
for,
And
for
now
both
you're the,
for both of those, I did my first order, and I was like, that was the only time I was ever disappointed that I had a first order, because they were
I know.
saying it was either me or you, because we're both about the same measurements. But you, Chris, we need the first order, and you have a first order, so you'll have to be the first order. I'm like, damn it, damn it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was
I did feel a little bad, but I was also very happy.
no, I was very happy for you. It was great that you had the opportunity. You got to do it twice. It's just insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Uh, so we all know all this crazy stuff's going on with the COVID-19, and we're all home, and we're doing stuff like this because we can't see each other or hang out or troop like we used to. Almost worldwide, 501st troops are canceled. So, all the garrisons from around the world are trying to figure out things they can do to stay active and still help their communities. Chris, can you tell us what your garrison is doing for stay motivated and still help out the community during these crazy times?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of talk internally about, what do we do? I mean, everything we do is besides building our costumes and getting those ready and giving advice, which we've continued to do throughout this situation. We've actually had a couple of costume approvals in the time since the COVID-19 thing started. That part of the group we can do, and we can maintain that, and we can continue working on costumes and continue giving advice. But really, the main focus and drive of what we do is getting out there and doing troops. Unfortunately, we've had, I think, 35 or 40 events at this moment so far be canceled due to the COVID-19 situation. We're a very active garrison in New York. We do anywhere from 100 to 125 events a year. So just in the 2-month period that we've had so far since the lockdown, or a month and a half, that was really our walk time. I mean, that's where we had walk after walk after walk. We would have walks and polar plunges and festivals and spring festivals. All of them got canceled. 2 of our hospital visits were canceled. It's been, a real trying time for our members, and a real trying time for our, the people in our command staff. We have 3 people who do all the event coordination and try to set up all the events. It's very disappointing when you worked all that time, you've done all that contact, that back and forth with the organizers, to then have to go back and have to cancel the events. In this case, it wasn't on our part. Most of the event organizers from the organizations have canceled, but we also have a moratorium that's in effect until the middle of May from the 501st Legion. And we're going to abide by that and follow any state or other rules that have come out to meet that mandate, because the last thing we want to do is cause anybody to get anything or spread it to somebody who might be at risk and have them end up having a bad outcome from COVID-19. So we want to follow those rules. So we got to talking internally, and I worked with my command staff on coming up with, a direction. And we all pretty much figured the only thing we could do was a virtual troop we had seen this in some of our nonprofits and some of our charities that we were supporting. We're doing virtual polar plunges and virtual things of that nature, a way for everybody to kind of come together on a particular day and work towards a common goal. So we started, putting some stuff together, and we wanted to do it quickly because we knew a lot of other garrisons and a lot of other groups were trying to, get that started. We wanted to kind of be the trailblazers in this and trying to be one of the first ones out there to actually do this in a coordinated way. So we focused in on, I think it was April 4th. Mm-hmm. We only had about a week or so to really get it together and prepare it. We had an internal conference call with all our command staff, throwing around some ideas. We had a very talented person in our group, Lara, who put together the graphics for it. And we quickly got together a Facebook virtual troop page. And the idea behind it was to allow any of our members who would want to get in their costumes, do a PSA, do something around the house, do a funny video, a music video, anything they could think of. Just the fact that they're doing it on that day and they're posting it on that day and that we're all kind of doing this common experience together, we would count it as a troop. So we got a lot of the members involved. We actually had 22 members get involved and start making videos. And by the end of that day, it was a long 12-hour day for us and the command staff, monitoring the Facebook and posting some stuff on behalf of members, having members post stuff on the Facebook page. We ended up at the end of the day with over 53 videos. We had picked the Long Island Cares Food Pantry as the beneficiary of any monies raised during that day so that there'd be a purpose for the troop other than just having fun. And we managed to raise over $550 for the Long Island Cares organization. So it was very successful. And I think a lot of the folks were really into it. I think a lot of the members who were a little skittish at the first one, now that they see what it's all about and see the spirit behind it and see some of the funny things that came out of it, I think they're going to get involved in our second one that we're planning for May 2nd. And I think they're going to contribute to that one, and we're going to keep it rolling. And we're doing stuff like this here, trying to do something a little different than what we did before. We're trying to do some more produced videos, some behind the scenes videos, some interview videos, things that might be of interest to the public at large, that might get them interested in what we're doing and keep us in mind for the future when this is all over. Maybe keep us in mind to do events with their organizations. So I'm hoping it'll be something that we can look back on and be proud of and be able to say, when everybody else was sitting around and doing nothing, we were working and we were creating and we were continuing to blaze a trail forward with the 501st Legion's Empire City Garrison to do something positive in the community, even while we were stuck at home. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a very positive thing, and I think we're going to continue it. I hate to say, I hope this doesn't continue into June, but if it does, we'll think of doing a third one in June. Just anything to keep people engaged, keep them distracted, keep them occupied, and keep them working in a positive direction, I think is a positive thing. And I think we're doing that through these virtual troops.
Yes, it was a really fun experience. Some of the videos I didn't expect. You see everyone's creative side and all the different things they're doing. You had a really good one. You did a music video.
Yes, I did a music
got
video.
Your family involved, which was very.
Yeah, good. I cannot take any credit except that I wanted to do that song because I thought that song would be funny to go with the video. Perfect. And enlisting my daughter, who goes to Adelphi. I have my daughters they're twins, and they're now 19 years old and go to Adelphi University. My daughter, as part of her minor in education, has taken a lot of communications classes, and she has Premiere on her MacBook Pro, and she's gotten very good with it. And she had done a couple things for class that I was just blown away by. And I begged her, I said, please help me with this. I don't know how to edit these videos. I did a bunch of videos that you saw that were just me that I did, which were just goofy, me around the house playing a video game, me doing other stuff. But I told her I wanted to do something that was actually looked pretty good. Mm-hmm. And she kind of directed me and said, okay, stand over there and do something. And I would do something. She took all this garbage of me just around the house, playing the piano, playing the guitar, sitting on a chair, reading a book, looking at some food on a table. She took it all and put it together with just the right editing, just the right beats to go along with the song. I saw it, and I was like, I saw the final result, and I'm like, my God, this looks like a real video. This looks like a real music video.
I know. When you showed it to me, I was like,
I couldn't believe it. I actually got a little upset when I saw it. Not because it's really upsetting. It's more of a comedy than it is. a sad video, even though some people have said how sad and true this video is, you know, after seeing it. But just because I was so proud of my daughter, I could not believe what a job she did on it. And we're working on a top secret video
Uh-oh.
for the second one that I hope
Oh
we
man, I
can
gotta
get
set my
to in the
game up.
next 2 weeks. We already got the shots laid out. We already got a script. We already got everything going. I just have to get her away from her finals and her final projects to see if she can find a couple of hours for me to work with me and get
Yes,
it
it's
on film.
504 first is more important. Yes.
Yes, this is much more important than that, than finals. Come on, I'll pay for an extra semester. Don't worry about it.
So
This is the important stuff.
so where could everybody find our virtual troupe for the next event? If anybody
You
wants
can
to check
check us out on Facebook at ECG Virtual Troupe. It's a Facebook page that you can see all the videos that we've already posted. We're going to be posting, we might post a few videos prior to the actual virtual troupe day. We might actually post this video to kind of give you a background and kind of give you an idea of what we're doing with the interviews. And also you can check out 501ecg.com, which is our ECG website, Empire City Garrison website, and the 501st.com website that is for the 501st Legion, that has all the information about the 501st Legion itself and about the detachments I mentioned and the costume reference libraries. Those are all great resources, but definitely start out with the ECG virtual troupe and just check out some of the videos. The creativity and the work that went into some of these videos is just amazing. We had some members do some PSAs that look professional.
Yeah, they were great.
That
Yeah,
looked
we
like
have
something you'd see from a news organization. So some people with a lot more skills than I have. There was some just funny ones of people around the house. And I want to credit again, just about the virtual troupe. I forgot to mention when I was mentioning about throwing around ideas, the person who had first mentioned it to me and actually called me about it and was talking to me about it was Eric Spader, the person I also mentioned I went to Jordan with from upstate New York. He was the one who really first proposed it. He had said that he had done some virtual trooping with like a virtual 5K. And he was like, you know, could we look into the idea? And he posted a thread on the forum. I said, go post it on the thread and see what kind of ideas we get. And he kind of got the ball rolling initially. And it took us about 2 weeks from that point to really get it together and get our act together. So we had all our ducks in a row. We had everything ready. We had all the infrastructure ready. So it took us about 2 weeks from when he first mentioned it to me to get it all together. But I think it just is a credit to our command staff. It's a credit to our organization that we take, you know, any idea from our group and our members to heart and take it very seriously. And if it's something we can run with, we're going to put the full resources of our garrison behind it and try to see if it's and give it a shot and see if it's successful. And it's been, in my opinion, it was incredibly successful and engaging. And I'm hoping the second one will be just as good, if not even better.
No, I'm sure it will. We got a lot of creative videos, so I'm sure everyone's, now that they got the idea, everyone's really going to bring their A game for this next one. One of the other things I would like to touch on is that we're not the only garrison doing stuff. People are doing stuff throughout the world in the 501st. We were involved with another charity thing for COVID-19 where we were making masks and stuff. How'd that come about?
Yes, actually, that's another amazing story about how this group brings people together from all over the country. Diana Torres from the Golden Gate Garrison reached out to me personally and was just inquiring if any of our members knew of any organizations that could use 3D printed face shields for their medical staff. It just so happened that I work for CP Nassau, Cerebral Palsy of Nassau County, and we have 20 facilities around the island and residences where we have people with disabilities. And we were in dire need of any PPE supplies of any kind. She was gracious enough to, you know, when I told her that we'd have an immediate need and that I would be willing to put them together, do whatever it took from my end to put them together and get them to them. She basically would print out the 3D shields, her and a group of not only 501st members, but Mandalorians, Rebel Legion people, Droid builders, other 3D maker enthusiasts from her group out in California in the Golden Gate Garrison had gotten together, and they had realized that California's need was not as great as New York. Diana's originally from New York, heard about New York having such a rough time, and that's why she originally reached out to us. So I got back to her, said, absolutely, I could use it right away, whatever you could send to us. She didn't hesitate at all. She said, Chris, I'm going to get you 50 in the mail, and I'll keep sending you 50 until I run out. She ended up sending me almost 200 face shields.
Wow.
They take about an hour and 10 minutes or so to put 50 together. You have to connect the 3D shield to the plastic material, and then stack them and then put them in a clean, bag and box them to bring them over to the facility. I worked on that for 5 or 6 hours over a course of about a week and a half, and managed to deliver them to the Cerebral Palsy Association in Nassau County, who was very appreciative of them. They couldn't believe, the generosity and just the fact that somebody from California, heard about the rough situation in New York and was willing to help and did not hesitate to try to help fellow 501st members across the country and try to offer assistance. She's also put us in touch with Sean Chapman from a company called Sunweaver, and we have 11 volunteers already lined up that hopefully if they can get us some additional face shields from their larger project, they're going to try to start sending us some shipments to use at Northwell Health, upstate New York at Dutchess Hospital, and some other hospitals in the immediate area that might need them, who have already requested from us. We reached out to some of our contacts, and they got back to us and said, yes, whatever you can provide us, here are the drop-off locations, let us know what you can provide. So hopefully that contact from Diana also opened up another contact with this person in California that might be able to get us some more stuff. So I'm hoping to make this another thing that's outside of our trooper activities, but something that we can, again, feel good about, feel proud of, and we're contributing in some way to helping other people during this COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about this club. But we have so many, because we build our own costumes, and we have very creative people that we have people that sew, we have people that build, we have people that 3D print, we have people that do everything. So we have so many people doing stuff. We have groups of people that sew, that are making masks, and it's just incredible to see how everyone's coming together for this situation.
Yeah, and just also be aware too, on a national level, the 501st is also doing some things for COVID-19. They're doing May the 4th greetings. They're doing story time. Our sister organization, the Rebel Legion, that does the Rebel costumes that some of us are also dual members of. Basically, if you want to do a good guy costume, you don't join the 501st Legion, you join the Rebel Legion. But we work very closely with them and do a lot of events with them. They're doing a story time as well, and they have a whole YouTube channel with story time. So it's great to see that these organizations are doing something positive in the community and trying to keep this going and trying to keep their members engaged as much as possible.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thank you. I know we've been talking for a long time. Hopefully people watch this, but
Well,
we have
thanks, John. And
so many things going on.
I just want to say to everybody out there, just stay safe, stay home, try to flatten the curve, and we'll all get through this. I keep saying this, I'm going to say it again. I said it in my address about the coronavirus this week. Before you know it, we'll be back to trooping, and this will seem like it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
It'll just be something we'll talk about later on down the line.
Yeah.
But again, just like Chris said, I hope everyone stay safe, stay home, just follow the rules and do what you got to do. This will all be over soon. And yeah, we'll see you later on in the week with another video. Thanks again, everybody. Bye, Chris.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.